Good morning, everyone. My name is Barb Ryan. I'm Executive Director of the World Geospatial Industry Council, and I'd like to thank Joanna and her team for the opportunity to spend just a minute or two talking on behalf of the private sector at this Earth Information Day. You would have seen this slide at the tail end of Sarah's presentation. To the best of my knowledge, it's the first systematic assessment of GHG monitoring capabilities from space across public, private, and hybrid missions. The report's available at both the GEO and the WGIC home pages. I'd like to just focus on a couple graphs that these aren't in the report, and I'd like to just talk about these from a WGIC perspective because I think it's really interesting for this community. The graphs on the left-hand side of this slide show in orbit, in development, and a mission that's ended across public in blue, private in red, and hybrid missions in gray. We took that same data and then translated it into a decadal approach. And so what you will see on the right-hand side are in the early part of the 1990s and the 2000s, these missions were 100% public sector. As we come into the 2011 to 2020 era, they are still predominantly public sector missions with the emergence of private sector missions. There are two on orbit right now, GHG Sat, which is delivering data, Orbital Sidekick, which is still in a testing phase and will shortly be delivering data. And as we go from 2021 into up until 2030, what you'll start to see are the emergence of hybrid missions. That's some combination of public, private, or philanthropic funding. So while this is in GHG monitoring, I think it'll be very interesting to follow this into the future for other climate monitoring and seeing if we see the same kind of trends emerge. I'd like to just highlight real quickly some additional messages on GHG monitoring from space. First, private sector entities are building and have built on just decades of work that's occurred in the public sector. There's increased spatial, spectral, and temporal resolution that's emerging from those private sector entities. We're starting to see hybrid missions, which again, public-private or some philanthropic funding is going into this. But really quite importantly is that continued financing is needed for both public and private sector entities. It is not an either or. We need to bring the data and information from the entire suite of these assets together if we're going to tackle this issue in any meaningful way, both locally, regionally, and globally. Collaborative activities among agencies, like what we see in CS and CGMS, companies through WGIC, and organizations like GEO, WGIC, and Climate Trace are just so important, and those efforts need to be encouraged. And then lastly, parties need to continue to leverage the assets from all of the above, those organizations, agencies, and or companies. Thank you very much, and again, all the best for the rest of the day.